Overreaction Friday. Graz, you and me on this one.
Okay.
The Raiders should trade the #1 pick in the draft. Is that an overreaction?
Yes, it's an overreaction. The Raiders have plenty of picks. They need a quarterback. There's one quarterback in this draft it seems like that everybody really loves. Stay put. Take Fernando Mendoza. Make your fan base happy. Build around him with Clint Kubiak, the offensive-minded head coach you just hired. Hold on to that pick. Get your quarterback.
I mean, imagine making the trade. And,
Yes.
and then the next question is going to be, so what's the plan at quarterback?
Right.
Which has been a question for the Raiders for a couple decades.
For quite a while now, yes.
All right, #2. The Vikings should bring back Kirk Cousins. Is that an overreaction?
No, I don't think it is. The Vikings need to bring in someone to at least provide competition for J.J. McCarthy after the disappointing season he had. You bring in Cousins, who's been there, who likes it there, who probably didn't want to leave the organization in the first place. If he beats out J.J. McCarthy, then he beats out J.J. McCarthy and you have somebody who can play. If he doesn't, he's probably a good guy to have around as a mentor for J.J.
Oh, at least someone could be getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. That is a problem they absolutely have to solve based on what we saw last year. All right, #3, Nick Sirianni enters 2026 season on the hot seat. Is that an overreaction?
I'm going to go with no. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think you can only fire so many assistant coaches before the focus starts to turn to the head coach. And they've been in this pattern where the offensive coordinator does well, he gets hired as a head coach, they promote somebody else, and they have a tough year, and then they bring in, so they went a different direction with offensive coordinator this time. Young guy, untested, Sean Mannion. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't, if this offense doesn't get off the ground to a greater extent than it did last year, I do think we're going to start hearing those things.
The wildest situation.
I know.
Every other year they're in the Super Bowl, and then every other year the quarterback's on the hot seat, the coach is on the hot seat.
It's Philadelphia, man.
Only in Philadelphia. Speaking of which, Jason Kelce, former Eagles center, was asked that very question yesterday about Sirianni on the hot seat. Here's what he said.
I wouldn't say going into the season that Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat. I wouldn't make that statement. But if things don't go well, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles are like, listen, we want to abort and try something new because that's the way this thing is going in the league.
All right, Bart, let's start with you. What question do you have about Nick Sirianni heading into the season?
Well, when you talk about being on the hot seat, which everybody's on the hot seat in Philadelphia, I wonder if he's going to take control and take the narrative, because that's, if you look at the trend in the NFL, is all about fracking and guys trying to do exactly what they see as successful. We see McDonald, making sure that he takes over the side of the ball in which he's best at. When we look at all the new coaches that are hired, you look at Joe Brady, is he going to call plays? You look at Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn, you look at Robert Saleh, Sean McVay, Brian Schottenheimer, you look at LaFleur. It seems like if you're going to go down, then you need to go down taking control of what because what happens is you bring in an offensive coordinator, he becomes good. If he does a great job, he gets hired as a head coach. So why not just take control of it as a play calling head coach? That way you can ensure that you have continuity and consistency at the position.
Speaking of continuity, I'm missing this one, guys. Been to the Super Bowl twice, won a championship. 40% of the NFL changed head coach. 40%.
Yes.
The teams that have mental toughness have a built-in sustainable advantage when they don't have all the turnover that you just alluded to. Like, continuity matters. He's done a great job. Has it been perfect? No, but before you let him walk out the door, guys, who are you going to get that's going to have a better record?
He did the same thing to Doug Peterson.
3 years. He got 3 years after winning the franchise's first Super Bowl, and then he was out on his rear end. So, look, it can be unforgiving there. It can be difficult there. To Jason Kelce's point, it may not make sense right now sitting here in the offseason, but you get to week 8, 9, 10, and the offense still doesn't look good, I think there's going to be some chatter.
Especially if Dallas is on the rise and the Giants are on the rise.
Yeah.
The Eagles have been able to beat up on Big Blue for a while.
Sure.
And they start bouncing back, that's going to be a big issue.
And he's fired his coordinators before, so you run out of people to fire. At some point, you got to point the finger at yourself, and they have a high bar there.
It's a production business, right?
Yeah.
Like winning the division, doesn't that matter?
Sean McDermott just got fired. Like, he's in the playoffs literally every single year.
But that was 9 years.
I understand.
And I don't think that was a good decision either.
I agree.
But all my point is, if he walks out the door, look at his record and who you're going to bring in that's going to surpass it.
Yeah, the question wasn't should he be on the hot seat.
Right.
Yeah.
Could this happen?
A
And the
resounding
Eagles have shown us that it can happen that quickly.
So much talk about A.J. Brown and the wide receiver position in Philadelphia, but there are other positional groups we should be looking at as well.
Oh, yeah, well, the offensive line. I think that's the key question because Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach, was there for 13 years. He's not there anymore. These guys have grown up in that program, a Jeff Stoutland-directed program that develops offensive linemen at a high level in Philadelphia. They're going to have to replace him, and it's not going to be easy. And then you look, Lane Johnson probably getting toward the end of his career. Is it possible he retires? Landon Dickerson, even though he's only 27, has been making noise about possibly retiring. So they need to make sure and stay on top of that, which is something that Howie Roseman does well, but it's going to be even more important as they enter this era of transition.
Offensive line, such an undervalued position. It took until this year to finally create an award for the position. You lose a coach like that. Like, how big a blow is that to the offense?
I mean, it's the voice. It's the steady and calming voice on the sidelines when you need answers. And that's what players always need. When you come to the sideline, you're having adversity. Who can give me the answers of what's going on and how do I correct it? And, when we talk about the offensive line, I think something else that they're going to have to address, especially because Phillips is going to become a free agent. They really struggled to really get to the passer as well. They have tremendous corners, tremendous defense, but they didn't get to the passer at the rate that we thought they could get to the passer at. And I think they're going to have to address that position as well.
You've been in the position before where you have to look to address coaches, address assistant coaches. How are the Eagles going about this, in your opinion? Is this going to be as big of a problem as some think it is?
I don't think so. Look, they brought in Chris Cooper, not a household name, but he's a solid offensive line coach. To Graz's point about the offensive line, it hasn't been ideal, but to me, you draft another guy, maybe Landon Dickerson retires, you squeeze one more year out of Lane Johnson. Not ideal, but I got to tell you guys, when you speak to people around the league, you look at rosters, even though that offensive line isn't where it once was, most teams would say, wow, I'd rather have their line than my line.
Yeah, but it clearly slowed down Saquon Barkley. He wasn't the same player, and it's because he wasn't able to hit the line and get 4 or 5 yards before getting touched.
I want to get some thoughts on this. Yesterday, Jeremy Fowler was on the show. He intimated that Philadelphia could look to the draft for the quarterback position. Not in the first round, but maybe day 2. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think more likely, let's look for an extension for Tanner McKee, somewhat of an underknown backup, but he's going into the last year of his deal, played at Stanford. They like him. He's played well at different points, be it preseason or some spot opportunities. So I think there's a better chance that they try to extend him than maybe draft somebody else. He would have a marketplace. Look, this year we know there's so many quarterbacks, teams that need quarterbacks. There would be a market for him, but I'd be surprised if he left that building.
Philly going for the trifecta. Coach on the hot seat, wide receiver drama, and then let's go ahead and bring in another quarterback to really up the ante for the summer. Phil's better win a lot of games so people can turn their attention in another direction. How about a little segment we're calling Help Wanted? We have 3 star quarterbacks that need help in order to make a Super Bowl run next season. Bart Scott, we begin with you and the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen in Buffalo needs what?
Duh, he needs a receiver. Just listen to how the owner talked about Keon Coleman. But I think we're looking in the wrong direction. We're talking about a receiver. Everybody's looking at A.J. Brown. I look at the guy that may be a safer pick, a much cheaper pick in Michael Pittman. And who knows whatever falls off the trees if you shake the Brandon Ayuk tree loose again. Maybe it could be a value pick as well.
Graz, the wide receiver position. Is that top of the list for the Bills this offseason, in your opinion?
No, I think the top of the list is building out that defense. That was a real problem for them last year. They couldn't stop the run at all. I think that's the receiver thing needs to be addressed, but I think the bigger issue and the thing that would even help Josh Allen more is if they got back to being a strong defense.
Yeah, I see it differently. They drafted a lot of young defensive players last year. Hopefully they'll get better.
Hopefully.
Yeah, with a good offseason program. But I'm with Bart. They need a number 1 receiver. I'm sure they were watching the Super Bowl saying, we are better than the New England Patriots. We need a number 1 frontline receiver right now. Let's go get him. Let's use the 26th pick in the draft, be it A.J. Brown or somebody else. So I can only imagine the conversations they were having while that game was going on.
Oh, they have to be kicking themselves. If there was ever a year to cruise through the AFC, this was the year. Graz, let's move elsewhere to another team that's probably kicking themselves, the Baltimore Ravens. They and Lamar Jackson need what?
They need a drama-free contract extension talks this offseason. Like the last time he was up for an extension, it was ugly. He demanded a trade. You know, they went back. They eventually got it done. But now they have to do something because his cap number is going to go up to almost $75 million if they don't touch the contract. So he's due for an extension, 2-time MVP. Shouldn't be hard to get one done, but it was the last time. And if it is this time, that could affect other things they're doing this offseason.
Mike, you've been in that seat. How should Baltimore approach these negotiations with Jackson?
What did Marv Levy once say? The answer is simple. It's just not easy. Look, bring him into the room. It's $60 million a year, plus or minus 5%. That's the number. Candidly, I hated when players didn't have agents. There's a reason agents are in the process, and they have to deal with it. I bring them in and say, hey, here are the 3 quarterbacks we think are most like you, and let's just try to get this done. I totally agree with Graz. Drama-free, be proactive. The cap number is going to hinder progress. So I would try to create a sense of urgency and be on the same side of the table and say, hey, we want you here for a long time. Here's why we think this is a fair deal, and try to get it done.
And we have to make sure that it's reasonable. Leave a little bit of powder for us to go out and get people to help you. You look at Daniel Falele, he struggled so mightily, and that was part of their problems in the run game and in the pass game. Go out and maybe get a guy like Wyatt Tiller, and they can come in and play guard at a high level for you. So you got to leave a little cheese on the taco.
I know he doesn't have an agent, so consider this advice to Lamar Jackson. I defy them to find 3 quarterbacks who are like me. That's the problem, right?
But that's why at $60 million a year, we're putting you at the top.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes negotiations are hard. Last year we talked a lot about Micah Parsons. Put him at the top of the market. Lamar's 29. Put him at the top of the market.
Yeah.
And the reality is he's going to make probably $500 million in his career. Do you want to be remembered for fulfilling your promise of bringing the Super Bowl to Baltimore? You might, give us some flexibility like Patrick Mahomes has done to be able to put a great team around you.
Bart sounds like the GM, and Mike sounds like the agent.
But I will say this, going back to your point, Joe, when there is no agent involved, you have to pick your words so carefully.
Can't hurt his feelings.
Right. And there are some people that we know are easily aggrieved.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the division, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati needs help with
Trey Hendrickson. Get the deal done. And Bart, I know there's a lot of bad will, but tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and we love, and I'm telling you, we are going to try and get the band back together. Everything I'm doing for the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of the front office that's my audience right there, Joe Burrow. And I'm showing Joe Burrow we're trying to win. Look, Trey Hendrickson's 31. He's still productive, even though he only played 7 games last year. I do everything within reason, not to franchise him, but to sign him to a market long-term deal. And again, Joe Burrow is the audience here.
You just hit the magic word, market. They're never going to give him the market. And they've been waiting for 3 years. They've been putting Band-Aids on this, promising him a long-term contract. All he did was lead the league in sacks 2 years in a row. And they trying to kick the can down the road, hoping that he has a bad season so they can bring his market down. At this point, I'm trying to win a championship. You guys picked when you decided to go and pay T. Higgins the money and not value both sides of the ball. So then let me go. Quit trying to hold me hostage. Market deal and value and Cincinnati are not 2 words that go together.
But what I would tell Trey is where are you going to go where you're going to have better offense?
Dallas.
Really?
Yeah, Dallas. Dallas was trying to trade for me last year. Dallas, no state taxes, so I can make up some of this money for this below market deal you've been trying to get me for the last 2 years. Dallas.
Do you think it's irreparable? Can these two get back together?
I think, he's 31 years old. Trey Hendrickson was not a marquee star free agent when the Bengals got him.
Yep.
Go find the next one. They've done it before. They haven't had success in a draft, but I think their focus is more on who's going to replace Trey Hendrickson than how can we keep him in the building.
They thought they drafted him, but that didn't work out.
Right.
Guys, it's Valentine's Day.
We're
reconciling.
No one's more fired up for Valentine's Day than Mike Tannenbaum.
Yeah, but I mean,
not everybody has a Valentine, by the way.
And on top of that, what's Valentine's Day about? It's about money before it's about love. Give them the money, they'll reconcile.
Exactly. So that's my point.
They're not going to give them the money. That's the point.
Let's not bury the lead. This is about Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow thinking and hoping every day he comes in, we have a chance to win, and our organization's doing everything we can.
They were well underneath the cap last year. They could have gave that man his money. And they kept kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, they don't
here's an extra $5 million.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're 31 years old. They playing that game. Man, I gave you 17 back-to-back. No, it wasn't Myles Garrett that led the league in sacks 2 years in a row. It was me. And you guys played me, man. I'm out.
Not.